Three, two, one.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. This is the May Power Hour. And yes, so thank you for all for being flexible and being able to move this up a week earlier. Apologize for that, but I'm going to be on the road next weekend. And so I didn't want to push it back. I figured it'd be better to push it up. So many of you have mentioned in the comments that there is some buffering. Can you please let me know if you are still getting the buffering or if that has improved? I realized I was on my Wi-Fi, so I switched over to my Ethernet. So let me know in the comments before we continue to see if there's anything else I need to do. But I'm not quite sure what to do. We've got some storms also that are going to be rolling through here, and I think that might have something to do with it. So just waiting on comments. Okay, awesome. Thank you all. When I ask for stuff like that, sometimes my heart starts fluttering because it takes a second for like all the comments to come in. So I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Can anybody even hear me? It's kind of sometimes makes me lie awake at night and think about that. So anyway, well, how is everybody doing? Just let me know in the comments. How are you doing? What are you working on? Is there anyone who is new here so I can give you a shout out? All right. So I see some folks in here, see some of our regulars. So while we wait for some more comments to pop in, Jonathan is working on New Chapter and Having Coffee. And let's see, Martha is working on a short story today. And let's see. All right. Caitlin is here. Hello, Caitlin. And Greblox is drinking black tea, working on phase 2 of editing Urban Fantasy. Fantastic. So really, really good stuff. Seems like everybody is working on some good stuff. Ty is editing today. So a lot of fun. So really cool. So I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to work on. I was trying to get this Power Hour all set up and ready. I was a good YouTuber. I sent out an email newsletter. I let the community know. So I'm happy to see a lot of my regulars here, even though we are slightly off schedule. All right. So Amy Down says working on Flash Fiction. Okay, cool. And Hunter Hendricks says first one this year. Hey, well, good to have you here, Hunter. Good to see you back. Good stuff. All right. And Hunter is working on a revision of Chapter 1 in Scrivener. And Gussie is working on a novella started in Camp Nano. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to work on. I'm in the middle of a short story, but I have like a bunch of competing priorities right now. So next week I'm going to be in Oklahoma at the Oklahoma Writers Federation conference. So if anyone is in Oklahoma and you're going to happen to be at that conference, please let me know. It happens to be, I think it's in Draft to Digital's backyard. Well, not literally, but figuratively. So there's going to be some folks from Draft to Digital there, and also some other cool authors. So I'm looking forward to that. So that's where I'll be at the balance of next week. So I'm trying to get ready for that. And then I'm also in the middle of a short story that I desperately need to finish. And I've also got like a gazillion other things that I've got to try to do before I leave, like emails and projects. And I shot 3 YouTube videos yesterday. So I've got to get those edited and uploaded and off before I go. So I have like a million things. I'm kind of bouncing around. I'm fully going to allow myself to have squirrel syndrome, I think, today. So, but before that, I do want to make a quick announcement. So I am participating in a box set, and it's an urban fantasy box set, and it's called Urban Fantasy Unleashed. And I'll put a book cover up here in a second, but it's a box set with 5 other authors, including 4 other authors, including myself. And you basically get an urban fantasy novel from each of us in a bundle, and it costs $9.99, which is a huge discount. And yeah, it's really, really cool. So I'll throw it up on the screen if anyone likes urban fantasy. So we talk about marketing a lot, and a lot of people ask, some of the things that I'm doing for marketing. And this is one of them, certainly. Getting together with a bunch of other authors and pooling our resources. I mean, we've, I think together got tens of thousands of readers to be able to send our books to. And We're doing Facebook ads as part of this, which is really interesting. And we're doing the payment splitting on Draft to Digital. So this is an ebook super bundle. Basically, we uploaded the book to Draft to Digital. Draft to Digital takes care of all the royalties, which is awesome. So we don't have to worry about any of that. All we have to kind of do is share it. And we also put together some other interesting ways to kind of promote. So if any of you haven't done a box set, I would definitely encourage you to consider it if you can find some other authors in your genre, because this was a lot of fun. Like, I learned a lot. So the authors that are in this bundle, Mark Leslie, like that Mark Leslie of Draft to Digital fame, he is in there with his Canadian Werewolf in New York. I've got my book Shadow Deal in there from The Good Necromancer. C.G. Harris is another urban fantasy author. Their book is The Nine. And Tao Wong has got a book in here called A Gamer's Wish, which is really cool if you like gin. And then, like, not gin like the alcohol, but gin like genies. And then we have James Hunter, who has Strange Magic from his Yancey Lazarus series, which is a really popular urban fantasy series. So if you want to get your copy, I've got a link on the screen. That's a books to read link, so you can grab it wherever you get your books. But yeah, it's really cool to do a joint marketing effort with a bunch of other authors. So a lot of fun. So I just wanted to make sure you guys knew about that. So going back here, let's take a look in at some of the comments. Okay, we've got a few new folks. So, all right. So for my new folks, just so you know, these are power hours. So welcome. We're glad to have you here. And we spend the next 90 minutes writing or doing something productive toward our writing careers. So in a minute, I'm going to put on some nice music and a nice little background. And there's going to be a timer that counts down from 20 minutes down to 0. During that 20 minutes, be as productive as you can. Start working on your story. And then after that 20 minutes, we'll come back. We'll shoot the breeze. You guys can ask me any questions that you want. Tell me how you're feeling about what you're working on. And we'll do this 3 times. All right. And then at the end of the 3rd time, I stay on and I will answer all of your questions. We'll just shoot, like I said, shoot the breeze and have some fun. All right. So I think that's all my announcements. I've got a bunch of like stuff coming up on the channel. There's another announcement coming on Friday that I'll be able to share. But yeah, I've just got a lot going on. So it's fun. But yeah, so I need these power hours as much as you guys do. And that is the honest to God truth. All right. So, okay. So I'm seeing everybody got the comments all worked out. So why don't we do this? Why don't we get started? I'm going to put the timer on and we will be back in 20 minutes to debrief. Happy writing, everybody. Okay. Well, hope everybody made it. Hope everybody was able to get some words in. So let me know in the comments, how many words did you get and how are you feeling? All right. So I realized, out of the million things I need to do, I forgot I need to publish a book. I got a cover back from a designer and I need to test it and make sure that it passes KDP print specs. So I've been getting ready to do that because I have like, I promised I'd let him know in like the next day. So oops. So I need to do that. But yeah. So all right. Let's see. We had a question come in from Dallas. So the question is, how do you get your books into bookstores? Well, it's a multi-part process, and it's kind of a can of worms. There's a lot that you have to think about. So first and foremost, the first thing you need to do is distribute through Ingram Spark. So if you're not distributing through Ingram Spark, that is the Ingram's catalog, or Ingram Systems is what bookstores use to purchase their books. If you are just distributing on Amazon through KDP Print, chances are you're probably not going to get into bookstores. One, because they've got an anti-Amazon bias, but two, because it's not the system that they use to order their books. And then also, so Ingram Spark is step number one. That will make it so that bookstores can purchase your books. And then you've got to make sure that you set your price high enough so that they can make a profit when they purchase your book. And then you also have to enable returns. And I know a lot of people are kind of scared of returns, but if you don't enable returns on Ingram Spark, it's not going to happen. They're not going to purchase your book because they're taking on a bunch of risk. Whereas if they purchase your book and can return it, if they don't happen to sell it, they can return it. All right. So again, can of worms that we won't go into. So those are the first two things. The next thing is, I would strongly recommend, your own ISBNs. That's just kind of critical. Doesn't necessarily stop bookstores from being able to buy your books, but it just makes you look more legitimate as a publisher. So I would recommend your own ISBNs. And then from then on, if you do that at least makes it so that any bookstore can purchase your books if they're interested in purchasing them, or if a reader comes into the bookstore and says, hey, I want to buy a book by Dallas Whitman. How do I get it? All right. And they can look it up in their catalog and it'll be there. All right. So that's step number one. Now, as far as getting bookstores to stock your books, a whole nother can of worms, right? Whole nother can of worms. There's a lot you probably could do. There's a great book by, I believe it is Debbie Young. It's over at the Alliance of Independent Authors, and I'll grab a link to it while we're talking here. But that book, it used to be called Getting Your Book into Bookstores. I think she changed the title of it, so I'm just going to get the exact title and I'll throw it in the chat. But basically, Debbie has done a really good job of putting together all of the different ways that you can get your book into bookstores. So yeah, I just got the link and I'm going to throw it in the chat right now. So, what I would say is it's not a sure thing. I think a lot of people, they think, oh, well, I'll just distribute my books through Ingram Spark and then it'll show up in bookstores. And unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. Another resource you could look into is the Independent Book Publishers Association, IBPA. They have a lot of great resources, and a lot of bookstores, use them as a resource as well. So you could take a look at what some of the things that they have to offer. And I think that they've also got some resources on how authors and publishers can get their books into bookstores as well. Okay. All right. We're starting to see some results come in here. And let's see. All right. Wyland says he made it. All right, Wyland, welcome. And Jonathan, a gigantic 159 words, but a character did something I didn't expect. Well, that's always fun. And Cora, got some prep work done on a series, but spent most of my time taking care of muddy dogs. Yeah, that's the worst, especially when they come in the house and you got to clean them. And yeah, not fun. All right. Wyland, 0 words, but excited to be here. Good stuff. Well, glad you're here, Wyland. And Martha, 408. It's a solid number. Emori, 320. You got this. And another question from Jonathan. Have you ever used Damanza for book covers or formatting? If not, do you have an insight into their quality? They are a bit expensive. I don't have experience with Damanza. I can tell you they've been around a long time. They've been around at least as long as I've been doing this, and I've heard of people who have used Damanza and had pretty good results. But I would encourage you to check out the Alliance. I feel like today's the Ally show. The Alliance of Independent Authors. They have a watchdog service, and in that service, they rate services based on how reputable they are. And so I'm pretty sure, if I were to go to that site right now and I were to look up Damanza, you could get a sense of what people think of them and what Ally thinks of them in particular. So, okay, yeah, Ally has them rate. They have the highest rating possible from Ally. They're actually one of Ally's partner members. So to be a partner member at Ally, you've got to reach a pretty high set of standards. So though they are expensive, it looks like they get the stamp of approval from Ally, which to me is a pretty big deal. So you can check that out, do your own research on it, and see if they've said anything else about Damanza. Okay, and I did throw that link in the chat for the Ally Service Ratings Directory, so you can check that out. Okay, Keybale writes, not too many words, but I figured out how to write about my character's water collecting system without being ridiculous in the description of it. This stopped me cold yesterday. Glad that's sorted. Yeah, very cool. Very cool. So it sounds like we're making progress. We're getting there. The next thing I need to do is I got my book all formatted in Vellum and I got it exported. And so then when I export my books, I have a logging system. So it's like a versioning system. So I always know what version my books are on. So I'm getting that updated. And probably during this next break, I'm going to upload the ebook and the print edition to at least Amazon and then maybe Ingram. I don't know if I feel like dealing with Ingram uploads today, but we'll see. But I at least have to get that done so I can let my cover designer know. So a lot of fun getting stuff done. I feel like I'm in a mad dash. All right. Well, I'm not seeing any more questions coming in. So why don't we jump into our next segment? I'm going to put the timer on the screen. Let's get it.
Listen, man.
Okie dokie. Here we are, end of round 2. Let me know, how are things going, everybody? Let me know what your word counts are and how you are feeling. All right. And there were some questions that came in over the last one, but just want to say hello to Blueberry Comics. Welcome. Good to have you here. And Blueberry Comics is working on the outline stage, trying to figure out their next project. And Nicholas Cato Strode is in the house. He missed the first round or two, but here he is. So welcome. Good to have you here. And let's see here. Okay. So I'll wait for the word counts and the feelings to come in here. But in the meantime, Emori asked just before we went on our second session, have I tried Sudowrite? And the answer is yes. So for those who don't know what Sudowrite is, it is a generative AI program that basically will help you generate text. So you type in something, it can continue your story. You can get ideas from it. You can have it write things based on prompts, and it's really cool. So I think it uses GPT-3. They may have upgraded it to GPT-4. I'm not sure. I haven't used it in quite some time, but yeah, it's a really cool program. If you're into generative AI and you're open to using it and playing around with it, I think it's really cool, and it gives you some really interesting ideas. In fact, one of my last novels, The Year of the Rat, in my Chicago Rat Shifter series, Sudowrite, I basically gave it the chapter, and it suggested some text that wasn't really that good because it doesn't write fiction very well. But it gave me an interesting idea that I ended up taking, and it kind of took that novel in a completely different direction than I thought it was going to go. And I thought that was really cool. So in terms of inspiration, it's really cool for that. So for those of you who are open to it and open to experimentation, check it out. The only word of caution I would give with Sudowrite, and this is not specific to Sudowrite, it's just true of all generative AI tools, is, I would be really careful about publishing anything that is either completely generated by Sudowrite or even partially, just because of some of the copyright issues that are still kind of up in the air. But yeah, really cool program. All right. Next question is from Deb, and Deb asks, what is the new book's name? So I'm working on a new book. I'm actually publishing it, and it is the 11th book in my Indie Author Confidential series. So Indie Author Confidential is a series. It's basically my quarterly diary, my dear diary about all the things I'm doing to further my writing career. So I'm at volume 11. I started this in, I think it was second or third quarter of 2020. And I've been publishing a new version a new entry every 90 days. I'm a little late on this one. And then volume 12 is probably going to be right around the corner, probably like in the next couple weeks. And then volume 13, I'll be back onto a regular schedule. But yeah, I have volume 11, and then I've also got an anthology volume. So at the end of each year, I also compile all of the year's volumes into a single volume, so you can get it at a little bit of a discount. But yeah, so that helps me because it just makes sure I'm publishing something every 90 days. Okay, Wylan asked, the Galaxy Maverick series, what was the experience like writing all of the books like that together and making that combined? Enjoyable, stressful, both? Would you do it again? But different. Yeah, Wylan, I would say my Galaxy Mavericks, it's a space opera series, and I wrote it all pretty much back to back, and I wrote it out of sequence. So I actually started. So the first book that I wrote in that series was actually book 2, which was Phantom Planet. And the series it's basically like a space opera, but there's 7 main characters. And so the first 7 books is told from the perspective of each of those 7 characters. So each character has their own book, and then they come together at the end in the final 2 books to beat the big bad guy. So I wrote book 2 first, then I wrote book 1, then I wrote book 3, then I wrote book 4, and then I wrote, I think, book 6, and then 5. I wrote it completely out of sequence. It was a lot of fun, actually. I really enjoyed it. And I don't know that I would have done it that way if I was writing like over a long period of time. But I wrote that whole series, I think, in like 9 months. So it was a lot of fun. And I don't think at any point that series was stressful. I actually really enjoyed writing that series. So there have been some series that have been, I wouldn't say stressful, but they were a little bit tougher to write. That was one of the, I think, the easier series to write. So glad you liked that one. Okay, next question. Or see, we got some numbers coming in. Keybell writes 367, Martha 360, and doing a rewrite for the rest of the session. And Keybell just wants to give some plaudits to Martha. Congratulations. And Jonathan says, I tried Chat GPT. It burned up a few hours. Next time I need a goal for it. I was just playing around. Yeah, well, I think playing around is required. What I do is I happen to use it whenever I come across a problem that I either don't know how to solve or don't want to solve it. So like, for example, I was trying to, when I publish my books, I do it in the same way every time. I follow the same steps because there's a lot of steps. When you have as many books as I do, you have to be really organized, or otherwise everything is like a hot mess. So I follow the same steps every time, and it's like 100 steps, and I'm not kidding. So I had this big Microsoft Excel spreadsheet that helps me organize everything, and I was trying to work on a formula, and for some reason I couldn't get the formula to work. So I went to ChatGPT and I said, please write an Excel formula that does this and this and that. It was kind of a complicated formula, and spit out the formula. And it turns out I had the right formula, but I was messing something else up. So like, to use it for stuff like that, where like I don't have time to troubleshoot Microsoft Excel and play around with it, or I need to write some really fast copy or something like that for like my website. It's perfect for those sorts of things. Those little one-off tasks that would take you a long time, that might be a good goal for you. So the next time you encounter some friction, try to play around with ChatGPT in that context and see if it can help you solve your problem. All right, Amy, looks like a good report. So getting a lot done, not much of a counter as a metric. If I can get an idea pinned down, that is success. Having a very successful morning. Well, that is great. That is great. And Greblock says, I'm using Edit GPT to edit my manuscript for grammar only. It's kind of slow, but that's good. So yeah, that's cool, Greblock. So Edit GPT is a Chrome extension that goes on top of ChatGPT, for those who don't know. And it basically, if you use ChatGPT for proofreading, the prompt I like to use is edit this text for typos only. Then it will edit your text for errors. And then the difficulty is ChatGPT doesn't tell you what it changed. So Edit GPT is basically an extension that will show you the markup, and it'll show you what it deleted, what it added, missing commas, periods, and makes it really easy to read. So it's really cool. All right, Greblock says, what's your workflow for this type of editing? Is it still mostly ProWriting Aid in Grammarly, and do you still use Perfectit? So yeah, in a nutshell, it's kind of, it's a little different now, but it works really well. So self-editing is first thing. Well, okay, let me step back. I dictate. When I upload my dictated text, I use Words Editor. It helps me catch a few things. It's not really that amazing. Words Editor. I use my own homebrew macros for Microsoft Word that help me clean up text based on errors that I usually make in the past. Way too complicated to go into here. And then I also use this new editing app that I have built that uses GPT-4 that catches a lot of stuff. And I use Perfectit. Those are the kind of the things that I use. And that helps me catch probably, 90% of errors. And yes, I am still using Perfectit, and it is fantastic. So for those who don't know Perfectit, look up my past YouTube videos on it. I think a lot of people are sleeping on it. It is an app that proofreaders use to proofread your work. So if it's good enough for proofreaders, I think it's good enough for us, right? So, but a lot of people, they try to compare it to Grammarly, and it's just not. You can't compare it to Grammarly. It's not the same thing. It's going to help you with formatting issues and things that proofreaders are looking for. So, yeah, Greblocks. Interestingly enough, I think you've got the right idea. I'm ProWriting Aid is great, but what I'm finding is that this workflow is catching a lot of the stuff that ProWriting Aid would have caught anyway. So while I'm not actively using it in my workflow anymore, doesn't mean that anyone else shouldn't. So it's still a great app, still catches a lot of stuff. It's good to use. Okay. And Jonathan says, for ChatGPT, I think I'll try to write my blurb since I mentioned it does well on that. Yeah, just make sure you prep it. So don't just ask it to write a book description. You've got to prime it. Basically, think about it like this. If you want somebody to do something for you, this is going to sound a little Machiavellian. I don't mean it to sound Machiavellian, but if you're going to have somebody do something for you, you got to kind of compliment them and flatter them first, right? So you got to butter up ChatGPT. So you got to say something like, you are a world-class marketer. Your copy is amazing. You have helped thousands of authors launch their careers, and give it its role. All right. And you got to say all sorts of nice things to it. And then say, I am an author who has no experience in copywriting, and I have a book description that I want you to write. And I want you to make it punchy and salesy. And, what I usually will tell it is no more than 2 or 3 sentences per paragraph. Use short paragraphs or short sentences, and use lots of action verbs, no passive voice. Be sure to tell it that, and then see what it gives you. And then I've gotten really good results with that. In fact, we wrote the book description for Urban Fantasy Unleashed, the box set I'm in, with ChatGPT. And that worked pretty well. And we basically gave it some text. Just make sure you give it text. Don't have it generate text by itself. That will drastically decrease the chances of you committing any kind of plagiarism. And don't just use the output. Be sure to take it and massage it and tweak it and make sure it's in your own voice, and you should be just fine. That's not legal advice, but should be good. Keybale says, is anyone else concerned we have to butter up an AI? Yeah, I don't know what that says about us, but you can't deny, or at least you can't argue with the results. You just try it. Just ask ChatGPT, ask it to write a book description, just cold, and then butter it up and see how much better the results are, and you'll see what I mean. All right. So let's get into our final comment, our final session here. I did see some more comments come in, and I will promise I'll get to those, but I want to make sure we get all the writing sessions in within the power hour. So you guys know I'll stay on and chat and answer any more questions we got. So let's go ahead and get our third session on, and good luck, everybody. Okay. Well, I realized I needed to stand. So at my camera. So I just felt like standing up. So I don't do that often on these power hours. So hopefully I don't look like a giant in this shot here. So okay. So let's see how everybody is doing. So let me know, was your final word count? How are you feeling? And what are your goals for this weekend? That's something I've been asking lately. So what are your goals for this weekend? What do you want to get accomplished? All right. So while everybody is putting that in, Amy had said before she had to leave, I'm so glad that you're out on the edge of this tech. I'm not ready to give this the time that I can learn. So yeah, I'm always out on the edge. It's fun for me. I'm cooking up another idea that I potentially have. This one's maybe a bit of a cockamamie idea. I'm probably not going to talk about it publicly until or unless it works. But yeah, so there's lots of interesting stuff going on. So I'm always happy to be on the edge. But if anybody doesn't know, I did do a long form video on generative AI. I did it last week, so it's fresh on the channel if you want to watch it. Some of my opinions and some of the things that I think are coming with AI. So in terms of my progress, so what did I get done today, and what are my goals this weekend? So it took me the whole time to kind of get my book ready. So with my Indie Author Confidential series, my workflow is kind of wonky. So my designer sends me the files for the cover, and then I always do due diligence. So I never take anything a designer sends me and then pay for it without testing it. So I will basically set the book up. So I get it all set up in my master publishing file. I get it all uploaded. I get it all formatted, ready to go. And then I test the paperback edition and I upload it to KDP and make sure it passes the specs. And then I do the same thing with Ingram. And then once it passes both of the specs, then I do the final stuff with the cover designer. Because every once in a while, he's really good, but every once in a while, there'll be 1 out of 10 that will, for some reason, fail the validation. And so I don't like to have to go back to him. So anyway, before I have to do all of that, I have to get the book set up. So I like I said, I have a lot of processes that I follow, that I've developed over the years. And so it took me this entire power hour just to be able to get to the point where I can now upload the books to KDP Print and Ingram. So my goal this weekend is to get this book published and then also get the YouTube videos that I shot yesterday edited and uploaded, and then also clear out a few of my to-do list items that I need to do before I head out. So should be fun, but yeah, it's a lot. I got a lot going on. So I'm running at like 50 miles an hour right now. Okay. Let's see. Jonathan says 304 words, 514 for the day. The novel is now at 47K. Hey, 47K is a great number. Good job. So Wyland asks, how tall are you? I'm 6'2", but rarely ever actually feel tall. I look really tall in this shot. I don't know why that is. I'm actually not that tall. I'm like 5'11". I'm average height. Not quite 6 feet. But yeah, this does make me look like a giant. I think it's because I've got ceiling tiles, and the ceiling tiles are kind of low in this room. So I'll remember that next time I stand up. Okay, so Martha, I'm trying to get my podcast recorded. Very cool. This is helping me finish up so I can start recording tomorrow. All right. Well, Martha, you should be sure to share your podcast when it goes live. I'm sure that many people want to listen to it. Be sure to tell us what it's about, too. So that way we can all support each other. And Jonathan, I want to get to 50K by Monday morning. I think that's doable, Jonathan. I mean, if you did 500 today, and that's just this morning. So, you're looking at about, you got 2 days left. So about 1,500 today and 1,500 tomorrow. I think you could do it. That's a very doable goal. I'd be more concerned if you were like, I want to get to 60K or something like that. Yep. Thanks, Wyland. And then Nicholas edited a total of 923 on my second draft. My goals for this weekend is to get through another 5,000 and figure out how to improve my opening without making false promises. Yeah, the false promises is important. You don't want to mislead readers. And D asked, do you write in a notebook or software? Well, D, I write in software. And my software, it's kind of complicated, but when I'm typing, I'm using Microsoft Word or Scrivener. When I'm dictating, when you can speak your words, I'm using a little voice recorder, and then I use a program called Dragon to take the MP3 and then transcribe it into text, and then I bring that into Microsoft Word. All right, Emory, I desperately want to finish outlining this novel I've been working on for what feels like forever. I don't know why I keep avoiding it. 520 words on the day. Well, sometimes there are things that we subconsciously just don't want to do. And I submit to you that if you're struggling with this, maybe you just need to power through it and just do it, rip the Band-Aid off, and then move on to the next phase. Because it could be your subconscious telling you that you need to move on, just based on personal experience. Greblocks, about 500 words during this power hour, but productive words. Very nice. And Gussie brainstormed 395, and we'll determine what will happen in the next chapter. All right. And then Martha says, it's a way to get my work out even when I'm not publishing. It's very satisfying. Very cool. Very cool. And all right. And Greblock says, my goal for the weekend is to just keep forward momentum and get some exercise. Yeah, it's a good goal. I need to go on a nice long walk. I haven't had a chance to do it because it's been kind of cold here, but I like to take my dog on really long walks and haven't had a chance to do it. So maybe I'll be able to get it in this weekend. So I just want to remind everybody, I do have that super bundle that I was telling you about, Urban Fantasy Unleashed. If you like urban fantasy, if you didn't see it at the beginning, you want to check it out. 5 novels, 5 best-selling urban fantasy authors, one great price of $9.99. You can get that at michaelleron.com/UF-Unleashed. And it's a lot of fun. It's been really, really cool working with these authors, and I've learned a lot. I actually met all of these authors at Superstars back in Colorado back in February. And so we all cooked up this idea. So definitely value in traveling to in-person conferences if you can swing it, because sometimes really cool things come out of it. So, all right. Let's see if any more questions are coming in here. Okay, Wylan, do you know if you'll ever be doing a visit to California at any point? I'd pay to come see you. Well, thank you, Wylan. I appreciate those kind words. I don't have anything planned for California at this moment, unfortunately. So I may be out there for some other stuff, but that's the kind of work, travel, whirlwind trip kind of things. But I have not had anything planned in California. I probably need to get out to California at some point. So when that happens, I will certainly let you know and let everybody on the channel know. As far as travel coming up, I'll be in Oklahoma next week at Oklahoma City. And then I will also be at Writer's Digest in New York City in August, like the middle of August. And we'll be in Midtown in Manhattan, and that'll be at the Hilton down there. So I'm actually doing a day-long workshop at Writer's Digest this year. I'm doing it with Maddie Dalrymple. You guys probably know Maddie. She hosts the Indie Author podcast, and she's a prolific author too. So we're doing a joint workshop on the ins and outs of self-publishing. So should be fun. Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry, Wylan. I missed. Oh, thank you, Wylan. I appreciate you grabbing the bundle. I realized I missed your earlier question. I'm sorry about that. You had asked me a question about Microsoft Word. Is it really worth paying for the Microsoft Word suite? I mostly use Google Docs because it's free and accessible pretty much everywhere. But I know Word is a standard. Well, it depends. It depends on what your goals are. I don't think there's anything wrong with Google Docs. Google Docs is perfectly fine, and it does probably 90% of what Microsoft Word does. Maybe more. It might be closer to like 95, 96%. So Google Docs is fine. All right. So let me tell you why I use Microsoft Word. There's a few reasons. There's a few reasons I switched to Word. The first reason is that I like the integration of tools like Grammarly, Pro Writing Aid and perfect it in Word. And so what I was doing before I went to Word was that I was writing my books in Scrivener, exporting them into a Word doc, sending that Word doc to my editor, getting the Word doc back, editing everything in the Word doc with Grammarly, Pro Writing Aid, and blah, 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 and then putting it back into, or putting it into Vellum. So, if you think about that's just not ideal in terms of efficiency. And you guys know that efficiency is my middle name. So I decided, let me just go back to Microsoft Word and do everything in Word. That way I don't have to worry about it. So when I write the book, it's in Word. When I send it to my editor, it's in Word. And then the only thing I have to do is send it into Vellum when I'm done. So from an efficiency perspective, that has been really helpful. The second reason I've switched over to Word is because Word, I think, is going to be at the forefront of a lot of the generative AI stuff that's coming. So Microsoft announced their Copilot feature, and I'm really, really waiting for the day that comes to Word, because I think that's going to enable all sorts of capabilities that existing writing apps do not have. And so you guys know that I like to be out on the edge of the tech, and I think that you will be able to do things like use GPT-4 to help edit your manuscripts, be able to generate text, be able to do all sorts of other things directly within Word without having to go into like a Sudowrite or another app. So for me, it is purely about efficiency, and I don't mind Word. I used to have some troubles with it. I've taken some Word classes on LinkedIn Learning, and I've invested a lot of time over the last couple of years in just getting more comfortable with Word, and I don't mind it. But then the third reason, and I know I'm taking a while to answer this question, the third reason is that I use it for dictation as well. So transcription, when I transcribe things, I bring it into Microsoft Word, and I use my Word macros to clean up the text. So because of my use cases, it just makes sense for me to be in Word. Now, as far as your use cases, if you're just writing novels and you're not doing anything crazy with macros or plugins or things like that, I don't see anything wrong with Google Docs. But to me, I think the money is worth it, not just for Microsoft Word, too. I mean, I use PowerPoint. I mean, I speak all the time at different events and things, and I use PowerPoint for that. And then I also am an Excel guy, so I use Excel for a lot of things. And then I also have Microsoft Access. So you don't hear a lot of people using Microsoft Access anymore, but I do use Access, and I use that as a way to track my sales. I have all my sales database stuff in Microsoft Access. So for me, the value of Microsoft Office pays for itself, like the first month of the year. It's kind of a no-brainer for me. So sorry I missed that question. Okay, what's next here? All right, Jonathan says, always learn something and get some new words in. Hey, thanks for coming, Jonathan. Appreciate it. And okay, well, I'm not seeing any more questions come in, folks. So why don't we do this? We are going to say adios for today. But before we do that, I want to let everybody know we will be back to a regular rotation for the Power Hour next June. So remember, this is the May Power Hour, okay? Even though we're in April, this is the May Power Hour. So the next Power Hour is going to be Saturday, June 3rd at 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern. So regular time, regular rotation in the month. And yeah, I think I don't have any other announcements to go over on that. Martha says, I hate Microsoft products. I only use Scrivener and export to Word only when I absolutely have to. Yeah, there is that. There are definitely some people that don't like Microsoft products, but I don't mind them. I use them all the time, and I can live with them. All right. They're not perfect, but I can live with them. So anyway, I'll see all of you on June 3rd. Thanks for attending, and have a wonderful weekend. Happy writing, everybody.